You're watching the news on Bahrain International. I'm Hamid Shaban. Good evening. On behalf of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa received the credentials of 11 newly appointed ambassadors to Bahrain during a ceremony held at Sakhir Palace. Upon arrival, the newly appointed ambassadors had arrived separately at Sakhir Palace, where they were received by the Chief of Royal Protocol. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister received the credentials of the Ambassador of Belgium, Mark Trentesio, the Ambassador of Ghana, Mohamed Habibu Tijani, the Ambassador of Cuba, Vladimir Gonzalez, the Ambassador of Sweden, Lesolette Anderson, the Ambassador of Norway, Thomas Leidball, the Ambassador of Lithuania, Ramonos Davinodos, the Ambassador of Vietnam, Dang Xuandong, the Ambassador of Somalia, Salem Mauhaji, the Ambassador of Kosovo, Lolzem Mieko, the Ambassador of Sierra Leone, Haja Ishata Thomas, the Ambassador of Kyrgyzstan, Maripov Olobek, Asmidorovich, and His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister extended to the ambassadors His Majesty the King's greetings to their heads of state, as well as His Majesty's best wishes for success in their diplomatic duties to strengthen cooperation between the kingdom and their countries. The ambassadors shared greetings and well wishes for continued progress and prosperity on behalf of their heads of state. His Royal Highness returned these greetings, and in turn both parties commended the close bilateral relations of their countries with Bahrain. His Royal Highness welcomed the newly appointed ambassadors and lauded the ongoing progress and growth in bilateral relations, wishing them success in their ambassadorial duties. The personal representative of His Majesty the King, His Highness Sheikh Abdullah bin Hamad Al Khalifa, His Majesty the King's representative for humanitarian work and youth affairs, His Highness Sheikh Nasser bin Hamad Al Khalifa, the chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Isa bin Salman Charity Educational Charitable Trust, His Highness Sheikh Isa bin Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, the Minister of the Royal Court, Sheikh Khalid bin Ahmed Al Khalifa, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Abdul Latif bin Rashid Al Zayani, the Minister of Finance and National Economy, Sheikh Salman bin Khalifa Al Khalifa, attended the ceremony. The ceremony was concluded by a rendition of the national anthem of Bahrain.
سفير جمهورية غانا، سفير جمهورية كوبا، سفير مملكة السويد، سفير مملكة النرويج، سفير جمهورية ليتوانيا، سفير جمهورية فيتنام الاشتراكية، سفير جمهورية الصومال الفيدرالية، سفير جمهورية كوسوفا، سفير جمهورية سيراليون، سفير جمهورية قرغيزستان،
A warm welcome to the Kingdom of Bahrain. You are non-resident, but His Majesty has instructed me to receive you and to extend to you his best wishes, and to your presidents and prime ministers and monarchs, his best wishes and his best hopes that your terms as ambassadors are full of success, and the building of bridges between our respective nations that lead to better and stronger bilateral relations between our countries. So thank you and welcome.
حرس الشرف هي حرس الشرف السلام الملك البحريني سلام قف حرس الشرف كتفان سلاح شكرا سيد.
His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa received the Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Abdulatif bin Rashid Al Zayani and a number of ministry officials and heads of Bahrain's diplomatic missions on the occasion of Diplomatic Day at Rafah Palace. His Royal Highness highlighted the importance of continuing to build strong relations with various countries and enhancing Bahrain's contributions to the international community to promote peace, security and stability, which paves the way for a development that benefits all. His Royal Highness commended the efforts of Bahrainis working in diplomatic affairs and their commitment to advancing Bahrain's international position, which has led to successes across various national achievements in line with the kingdom's comprehensive development led by His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa. His Royal Highness thanked the heads of Bahrain's diplomatic missions and all those working in the diplomatic field for their efforts in implementing Bahrain's foreign policy and protecting the interests of the people of the kingdom abroad. His Royal Highness affirmed that Bahraini diplomatic professionals have proven their distinguished capabilities, noting their exceptional competence demonstrated across various stations that is worthy of pride and appreciation. His Royal Highness highlighted the importance of continuing to develop the institutional work of diplomatic affairs by promoting a culture of innovation and excellence while raising efficiency and capabilities in the field of diplomatic and consular affairs. His Royal Highness affirmed that Bahrain continues to build bridges of cooperation and communication with various countries across the globe with the goal of achieving desired and mutually beneficial aspirations, which are built on the kingdom's long-standing values of tolerance and peace. For their part, Dr. Zayani and the heads of diplomatic missions of Bahrain expressed thanks for His Royal Highness's unwavering support for diplomatic work, highlighting their commitment to implementing His Royal Highness's directives to strengthen Bahrain's relations with various countries across the world. The chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Isa bin Salman Charity Educational Charitable Trust, His Highness Sheikh Isa bin Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, the Deputy Prime Minister Sheikh Khalid bin Abdullah Al Khalifa, the Minister of Finance and National Economy Sheikh Salman bin Khalifa Al Khalifa, and the Minister of Cabinet Affairs Hamad bin Faisal Al Malki also attended the meeting. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa received Fawzia Zainal at Rafah Palace following the issuance of a royal decree appointing her as Bahrain's ambassador to Egypt. His Royal Highness highlighted the strength of ties between Bahrain and Egypt, which continue to progress in line with the support of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa and the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister emphasized the importance of further strengthening bilateral cooperation to achieve common goals and benefits for both countries and people. He congratulated Zainal on her appointment and wished her success in her new role in furthering Bahraini-Egyptian diplomatic ties. For her part, Zainal expressed gratitude for the opportunity to meet with His Royal Highness and noted that his ongoing support is an incentive to continue serving the kingdom and its people. The chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Isa bin Salman Charity Educational Endowment, His Highness Sheikh Isa bin Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, the Deputy Prime Minister Sheikh Khalid bin Abdullah Al Khalifa, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs Dr. Abdulatif bin Rashid Al Zayani also attended the meeting. The first Deputy Chairman of the Supreme Council for Youth and Sports, Chairman of the General Sports Authority and President of the Bahrain Olympic Committee, His Highness Sheikh Khalid bin Hamad Al Khalifa, attended the training of the players of the Giant Program for Basketball, which is being held in implementation of the agreement between the Olympic Committee and the Bahrain Basketball Association. Upon arrival, His Highness was received by the GSA Vice President, His Highness Sheikh Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, the GSA CEO, Dr. Abdurrahman Sadiq Askar, the BOC Secretary General, Faris Mustafa Al Kohaji, President of the Bahrain Basketball Association, Captain Walid Al-Alawi, and advisor to His Highness President of the Supreme Council for Youth and Sports, Chairman of the National Teams Committee of the Basketball Association, Mohammed Al-Ajmi. His Highness witnessed the training sessions, which included a group of promising talents. His Highness then attended the individual skills competition, followed by the free throws competition and the triple throws competition, and finally a friendly match between the players. On this occasion, His Highness affirmed that the initiative is one of the initiatives emanating from the Champions Industry Program launched launched by the Olympic Committee and a continuation of its efforts to embrace and support national talents of both genders. His Highness Sheikh Khalid praised the technical levels demonstrated by the players and commended the joint efforts made by BOC and the Basketball Association in supporting talents for the future of the game. His Highness affirmed that the program reflects the keen interest of the Olympic Committee in helping champions win in various sports and supporting players from an early age to develop and refine their abilities. His Highness also praised the efforts made by the Basketball Association in supporting the players, the game and its development, which resulted in achieving positive and historical results. The Representatives Council held its weekly meeting chaired by its Speaker Ahmed Al-Msallam. The Council approved the referral of the message from His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa regarding the draft law ratifying the cooperation agreement in the field of maritime transport and ports between the Government of Bahrain and Oman to the Public Amenities and Environment Committee and the Legislative and Legal Affairs Committee. The Council also approved the message from the head of the Government Program Study Committee 2023-26 on a request to extend the committee's duties for 6 days starting from the end of the second term. The Council approved decrees by law on the pension fund for officers and affiliates of the BDF and public security, Decree by Law 33 of 2022 on amending a provision or provisions of Decree by Law regarding tourism regulation, and the establishment of the regulation of the Bahrain Tourism and Exhibitions Authority was also approved. The Council approved Decree by Law 32 for 2022 amending a number of provisions of decrees by law on regulating buildings, urban planning, and land allocation for reconstruction and development. The Government Program Study Committee held its fourth joint meeting with the government team, where a government parliamentary consensus was reached on the amendments of the program to raise the standard of living and maintain citizens' gains. The discussions resulted in a consensus on adding a new initiative to the program on developing social disbursement provided to citizens, including the cost of living allowance. The Representative Council Speaker Ahmed Al-Msallam headed the parliamentary side, and the Deputy Prime Minister Sheikh Khalid bin Abdullah headed the government side. During the meeting, Al-Msallam affirmed the continuous meetings and constructive cooperation between the Representative Council and the government to reach a joint vision will achieve the interests of the country and its citizens and the aspirations and royal directives of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa. He hailed the support of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa in strengthening the approach of joint national work and the continuous guidance of the government team to study and discuss all the observations, inquiries and proposals of the representatives and the parliamentary committee concerned with studying the government program. He added that citizens' interests will always be the goal of the legislative and executive authorities, taking their needs into consideration in light of the current economic circumstances. He expressed thanks to the government team for their keenness and endeavors to achieve joint aspirations and goals in light of the comprehensive development process of His Majesty the King. For his part, Sheikh Khalid bin Abdullah asserted that the joint work with the Representative Council in a positive environment of cooperation and coordination will be for the interest of the country and its citizens. He noted that the government program is a priority during this stage of joint work with the legislative authority, as it represents the green light for exercising constitutional powers and competencies. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Abdulatif bin Rashid Al Zayani, inaugurated the work of the Diplomatic Forum 2023 in the presence of senior officials of the ministry, heads of diplomatic and consular missions abroad, heads of sectors and directors of departments. The minister welcomed the attendees and congratulated them on the occasion of Bahrain's Diplomatic Day, praising the outstanding efforts they made in consolidating the foundations of diplomatic work, implementing the kingdom's foreign policy, defending its interests, building solid bridges of cooperation and coordination between brotherly and friendly nations, and moving them forward towards more comprehensive levels in various fields and implementation of the directives and wise vision of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa. The minister expressed pride in meeting His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa at Rafah Palace on the occasion of Diplomatic Day, noting the generous directives from His Royal Highness to continue plans to develop the system of institutional work in the diplomatic field. The minister reviewed the program of the Diplomatic Forum and the meetings and dialogue sessions that will be held in the coming days to find out all matters of Bahraini foreign policy and diplomacy, stressing the importance of exchanging ideas, visions, aspirations, and reaching common goals to improve and develop the performance of the Bahraini diplomatic work locally and abroad in implementation of the directives of His Majesty the King and with the support and follow-up of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister. The minister called to continue building on the advanced and growing levels achieved at all levels, pointing to the importance of working together through communication and follow-up in order to achieve common goals and aspirations, wishing the Diplomatic Forum success. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Abdulatif bin Rashid Al Zayani, attended the first discussion session entitled Diplomatic Practices as part of the Diplomatic Forum 2023 in the presence of senior officials of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, heads of diplomatic and consular missions abroad, and the ministry's heads of sectors and directors. The discussion session focused on the innovative and creative approach to diplomatic practice and reviewed the most prominent diplomatic practices, visions, aspirations, goals, obstacles, and challenges. The participants reviewed their experiences and lessons learned from working in diplomatic missions and the nature of the coordination relations with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The government of the Kingdom of Bahrain, headed by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister, attaches great importance and special attention to the Bahraini citizen, as they are the real wealth of the country and the focus of its policies and future. More in this report.
The Bahraini citizen was and still the focus of government action, headed by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa, an implementation of the directives of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, given that the people of Bahrain are the real wealth of the kingdom, the focus of its policies and future, and the cornerstone of the nation's progress and stability in all aspects of life. The government works in coordination and continuous cooperation with the various ministries, institutions, and bodies in the spirit of one team by implementing various projects at all levels and creating many programs and initiatives that would contribute to achieving sustainable development goals for the benefit of citizens. The government always puts citizens at the top of priorities, which is evident in the latest order of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister to disperse an additional month of cost of living and to develop urgent plans and procedures that contribute to the stability and commodity prices and their availability, which will reduce the financial burdens on those with low income. The interests of the citizen will always remain the primary goal of government work in all fields to raise the standard of living and achieve the public interests of the country and citizens.
The President of the Electricity and Water Authority, Engineer Kamal bin Ahmed Mohammed, announced that the authority will launch a new system for subscribers' services and billing in early February to enhance the quality of services provided to subscribers. The President noted that the new system is in line with the latest technologies and developments. He stressed that the authority has trained more than 1,000 employees from EWA and relevant authorities within the intensive training programs and has been keen to provide all logistical capabilities to work more efficiently. He stated that the new system comes after a series of development projects undertaken by the authority, aiming to provide an integrated and modern system to make progress in the electricity and water sector in Bahrain. The Minister of Social Development, Osama bin Ahmed Khalaf Al-Asfour, affirmed that based on the order of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister, the ministry, in coordination with the concerned authorities, took all necessary measures to disburse an additional month of financial support for low-income families, cost of living allowance, explaining that the basic payment will be deposited on January the 15th, in addition to the amount of the additional month. He explained that the ministry has taken all technical and administrative measures to implement the directive to ensure that support reaches all those who are eligible through their bank accounts accounts in cooperation with all concerned parties, indicating that those who are eligible for Social Security assistance will benefit from the order of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister as they automatically receive financial support, noting that the number of beneficiaries has reached 130,078 for the January batch. The Minister of Justice, Islamic Affairs and Waqf participated in the Hajj and Umrah Services Conference and Exhibition under the patronage of the advisor to the custodian of the two holy mosques, Governor of the Mecca Province, Prince Khalid Al Faisal, which began in Jeddah. The Minister and the Minister of Hajj and Umrah, Dr. Tawfiq bin Fawzan Al Rabi'a, signed the Hajj Arrangement Agreement for 1444 Hijri within the framework of the Ministry's early preparations for the Hajj season of the current year. The Minister expressed thanks and appreciation to the custodian of the two holy mosques, King Salman bin Abdul Aziz Al Saud, and His Royal Highness the Saudi Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdul Aziz Al Saud for the warm welcome and efforts made by the Ministry of Hajj and Umrah through its keenness on continuous coordination to facilitate the affairs of pilgrims. The Minister of Industry and Commerce, Abdullah bin Adil Fakhro, praised the order of His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister to disburse an additional month of financial support for low-income families and develop urgent plans to stabilize commodity prices and their local availability. The Minister noted that the order of His Royal Highness reflects the government's support of citizens, especially in light of the challenges facing global markets. He added that the Ministry will cooperate with the concerned parties within Team Bahrain to implement the order of His Royal Highness by taking urgent measures that would contribute to the stability of commodity prices and their local availability. He also affirmed that these measures aim at implementing His Royal Highness's order through suspending fees for industrial lands allocated for food storage for a period of 3 months, in addition to halting the requirements for markets to obtain the Ministry's approval for promotional campaigns, as well as cancelling their fees for food markets for a period of 3 months. Fakhro affirmed continuing to monitor prices by intensifying control campaigns. The Secretary General of the Royal Humanitarian Foundation, Dr. Mustafa Sayyid, met with Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif on the sidelines of the international conference held in Geneva to support and provide relief to the Pakistani people. The Prime Minister praised the efforts of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa in supporting the Pakistani people during their humanitarian ordeal caused by the torrential rains and floods that left great damage to the infrastructure and an increase in the number of victims and wounded and the homeless, stressing the depth of the distinguished relationship between Bahrain and Pakistan. The Prime Minister said that Bahrain was one of the first countries to extend a helping hand and assistance to the flood victims in Pakistan at all levels, from political, humanitarian and developmental fields. He stressed that this great support is devoted by His Majesty the King and his government, headed by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister Prince Salman bin Hamad Al Khalifa. He also hailed the efforts of the RHF, led by His Majesty the King's representative for humanitarian work and youth affairs, His Highness Sheikh Nasser bin Hamad Al Khalifa, in providing charitable and humanitarian work to all people in need and afflicted countries. Dr. Sayyid conveyed the greetings of His Majesty the King to the Prime Minister and the Pakistani people, stressing that Bahrain's participation in the conference is a message from His Majesty the King to the people of Pakistan, and highlighted the depth of the distinguished historical relations between the two countries. Within the framework of preserving public safety and enhancing the community partnership strategy in the Ministry of Interior, the concerned Security Directorate exerted intensive security efforts, including regulating traffic and handling all communications received by the main operations room during the period that witnessed heavy rainfall. The Ministry activated emergency plans and took field measures which contributed to restoring the situation in the streets and residential areas to normal, in addition to monitoring traffic and taking the necessary measures to facilitate movement. The concerned directorates call on citizens and residents to take caution and adhere to the preventative guidelines to maintain safety for all.